comes to devastating fights in comics, there are many of them in existence. And there are many different reasons why a villain being defeated can be devastating. It can be something that is a fight that costs, or it can be a fight that's just completely brutal. Today we're going to be talking about all that and more as we count down the top 10 devastating villain defeats. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda. Let me know in the comments which villains you think have had some of the most brutal defeats in all of comic history. Number 10. Isca loses in victory. I love this defeat because it happens in the form of a victory, which is pretty weird and pretty great. This takes place when Isca is challenged by the Fisher King to a battle of loss. In essence, challenging Isca to see who has felt and experienced the most loss. In this way, the Fisher King kinda sneakily defeats Isca by making her step down from a direct battle after feeling the weight of all she has lost as a result of her powers. And the weird thing is, technically she wins the fight because she feels more loss, but in doing so she kinda loses in the way that the Fisher King wanted her to. While Isca's mutant power is to never lose, challenging her in this way basically ensures she will win. So having to feel and reflect on all the pain she has suffered and caused. As such, this causes Isca to leave Arakko, planet Arakko, unable to carry on, at least momentarily, in her fight against her fellow mutants, and causing her to step down from her place on the Great Ring, which many people feel she no longer deserved as someone who so deeply betrayed Arakko during their fight against Uranos. Even if it was, her own powers that compelled her to do so. And Isca's obviously done that before a few times. They were like, we're kinda over this. Especially when Isca just walks in and is like, well, I'm back. I'm also helping you guys run this, right? I can't deny that I would also be like, Isca, get out of here. And friends, before I move on to our next spot on this list, if you love devastating defeats, whoo, you will love our Invincible playlist because Invincible is full of devastating defeats. Devastating brutal ones, so go check that out. Number 9. Karma comes for Alexander Luthor. Alexander Luthor is the one who pretty much set in motion the events of Infinite Crisis, a major mastermind behind it all. In the end, it only makes sense that from a hero standpoint, he would have to face, some kind of justice, because that's how these stories typically go. And while initially he seems to escape pretty unscathed, at the very end of Infinite Crisis issue number 7, we see him come face to face with Karma in the form of other villains, Lex Luthor and Joker of the main continuity. While Alexander seems to already kind of be in the process of putting together his next plan, he is accosted in an alley by the two villains and quickly defeated, with Lex asking him as he slowly bleeds out on the pavement, "Now who's stupid?" I'm gonna spoil it for you, it was Alexander Luthor, he's a stupid one I think is what Lex is getting at. It's like, it's not me because now you're dead, so. Number 8. Thor goes for the head. This defeat is devastating in kind of a different way, because ultimately after the events of Avengers Infinity War, the Avengers are left without hope at the beginning of Avengers Endgame. Here, our heroes of the MCU go to face Thanos with the help of Captain Marvel. While they do succeed in locating him only 2 days after his fateful snap, which we all saw at the end of Infinity War, they still arrive too late. Thanos at this point has used the stones to destroy the stones, not something you can do in the comics, but apparently something you can do in the MCU, leaving our heroes without any foreseeable way to bring back those they have lost, because they have no Infinity Stones to do that with. Frustrated, Thor strikes out against Thanos, cutting off his head with a single swing of Stormbreaker and ultimately defeating him. Even more devastating actually, because with Thanos dead, our heroes are then left without any actual leads on how they might, recover the stones and return those lost back to life. So it's a defeat, but it kind of is a defeat that leaves you going, well, now what? Number 7. Superboy Prime takes a toll. I love Superboy Prime, he's such a brutal villain. For this point, we are headed back to Infinite Crisis, where earlier on in the same issue as Alexander Luthor's death, Infinite Crisis issue number 7, Superboy Prime is fought against by Superman of the main continuity and Superman of the Golden Age, belonging to Earth 2. The Golden Age Earth 2. I think there's a few Earth 2s at this point. While Superboy Prime is eventually brought to his knees by the combined efforts of both Superman and the help of Mogo and the other Green Lanterns, the fight is an epic one that cost Golden Age Superman his life in the end, leaving Kara, Power Girl, all alone. Super sad. Truly, this is a really sad fight. Consequences. We love a fight with consequences. Number 6. Magneto crushes Tarn the Uncarring. Oof. In a way, some might see this fight as one between two villains. However, at the point in history that we're talking about here, the era of Krakoa and Planet Arakko, Magneto is not really a villain, and Tarn even is a bit ambiguous when it comes to his role and his alignment. Although I would say at the very least we could consider him to be an antagonist, and myself personally, I actually do consider him in fact to be a full-fledged villain, because Tarn is, well, he's a pretty evil guy. Based on my perception of these characters, I'm including Tarn's defeat here, so that's what we're doing today, friends. At one point, Magneto challenges Tarn to battle, being backed up by Isca, who's kinda tricked into supporting the fight against Tarn by Sunspot. Magneto manages to defeat Tarn in only a few pages, using his helmet both to disable Tarn's telepathic genetic manipulation abilities and then to crush his head. Yikes. Number 5. Wonder Woman takes a life. What have I learned from this story? Don't mess with Diana's friends or colleagues. Once more returning to the story of Infinite Crisis, but this time, the beginning of it, the preamble, in issue number 219 of Wonder Woman, Diana is forced to fight against her longtime friend Superman, who is revealed to have been basically mind controlled by Maxwell Lord. Now when Diana realizes this, she heads straight for Lord, but Maxwell refuses to give up his control over Superman, promising Diana that at some point he will successfully manipulate Superman into killing Batman or Lois or even herself. She refuses to accept this, and while Lord is of course tied up with her lasso of truth, she demands that he tell her how to free Superman's mind from his influence, which obviously he's going to be compelled to tell the truth about that. Maxwell responds with simply 2 words, "Kill me." And surprisingly, Diana does just that, snapping his neck with her bare hands. Pretty surprising. Although I guess, you know, Wonder Woman is a warrior, so sometimes she do be killing people. Number 4. Professor X creates an even greater villain. Time to talk about Fatal Attractions. This is the famous X-Men crossover story arc where Magneto uses his magnetism powers to pull out all of the adamantium from Wolverine. Terrifying to behold, but it inspires a possibly even more horrifying reaction from the X-Men's mentor and teacher, Professor X, who snaps after seeing this happen to Logan. He uses his telepathic abilities to completely wipe Magneto's mind, taking away, as he says, his greatest weapons: his hatred, his ego, his nightmares, Magneto's mind! It's all gone! This would be the catalyst event that would set up Onslaught, a powerful psionic entity who would manifest as a result of the combined darker psyches of both Professor X and Magneto. A devastating defeat, therefore, in many ways, considering, you know, what it leads to much later. Onslaught, I feel like, just goes on forever. Number 3. Starro reminisces on happier times. Oh, this one is truly brutal and devastating for me because, in a way, Starro was quite a misguided villain. This is like heartbreakingly devastating. In James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, Starro is cast in the role of antagonist, but Starro is not malicious per se, or at least not malicious without, you know, cause. Starro is an alien who was captured and used for various experiments as part of Project Starfish. The Suicide Squad has been sent to basically shut down said project after the United States learned of how dangerous the project could be if unleashed on the world. When the team finally uncovers the truth behind Project Starfish, it's too late and they kinda accidentally unleash the captive, mind-controlling cosmic being Starro on the world, or at least on Corto Maltese. Amanda Waller is surprisingly fine with all this, as it will destabilize Corto Maltese, which actually benefits the US, so she's like, nah, that's cool. However, the squad decides to rebel against Waller because, I mean, there's a lot of destruction happening around them, a lot of innocent people being taken out, and they decide to take on Starro anyways. Thanks to a combination of commitment and luck, they manage to defeat Starro, but as they lay dying, Starro broadcasts their last thoughts, reminiscing on what their life was like prior to being taken captive on Earth, saying, "I was very happy, floating, staring at the stars." Sad last words. Number 2. Nova annihilates Annihilus. In Annihilation issue number 6, we see one of the most devastating villain defeats of all time. Or at least, you know, one of the most devastating methods of defeating a villain, I would say. It's happened a few times this way in the comics, actually, and each time it's still pretty devastating. Here we see this method used when Nova takes on Annihilus and defeats him by basically, like, ripping his spine out through his throat. What a way to go. I don't even know if we can actually show this one on YouTube. I don't even know if I could say that on YouTube, but I did, so I guess we'll see if it makes it in the cut. It's that devastating of a moment. Number 1. Peacemaker Faces His Dad. This one was a disturbing, heart-wrenching, and shocking moment from season 1 of Peacemaker, a series that surprised me in so many different and delightful ways. One such startling moment happens when Peacemaker is forced to face off against his dad, White Dragon. While we know pretty early on that Peacemaker's dad, Augie Smith, is pretty much the worst role model or parent anyone could ask for, we also see that Chris Smith, aka Peacemaker, still cares deeply for his father despite all the awful things his dad has done to him throughout his life. Rather than rightfully blame his father for his messed up upbringing, which honestly he should do, Chris seems to blame himself almost just as much, if not more, making the moment when he actually faces his father a pretty tense one. Years of pent-up rage, disappointment, shame, and frustration manifest in a single instant when White Dragon goads his son into killing him, commenting on the fact that he doesn't believe his son is in essence strong enough or man enough to even do so, and in the process causing Peacemaker to snap, pushing him past the brink and resulting in, well, Chris doing just that, killing his own supervillain father, pretty brutally too, so yeah. And friends, that's all the time we have for today for some devastating villain defeats. But if you want more, you know what to do. Click that like button, let us know down below. I've been your host, Amanda. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye!